Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, surviving a Dolphins loss against some dodgy referee calls. God damn it, NFL, sort your refs out. Just saying. Anyway, enough football talk. We're here to talk about comic books, and I have got not one, but two guests on the show who are going to tell us about this fantastic Kickstarter that has hit 1,100% of its funding goal. Has to be one of the most, if not the most successful Kickstarter campaign of all time. It is Horrible Futures co-founders. It is Mark Schey and Chris Northrop. Mark, Chris, how's it going?
Hello.
It is going well. Great to be here. I like the wind up and the intro. It's very
Woo!
Woo!
cool.
Oh yeah! Woo!
I feel like I should be shouting, but then it's
Oh,
like the depressing football loss. So brought it down a little.
I've got to take my grins where I can, you know. But still, I'm not going to complain. 5-2 after 7, top of the AFC East. I'm all right. I'm okay. We're okay. We do the Jets twice and do the Patriots again. We've only got to worry about Baltimore and Kansas. I think we can win out the rest. So.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending some time. Before we get into the book, just talk to me about how it feels. 1,100%. That's 1,100% funded on Kickstarter. When people say they've hit the Kickstarter targets, it's like, yay, woo. But you guys absolutely nailed it. Mark, how do you feel about just kind of the love that the work you've created has generated?
Yeah, I mean, I am particularly excited about. I mean, that's like I believe we have 1,600 backers, which is amazing because that's like that many people are going to be experiencing reading this world that Chris and I developed. It's my understanding that it's the best-selling graphic novel like sci-fi anthology of all time on Kickstarter, which is like, we did not expect that. We expected, hey, we hope this does good. Yeah. And to have that happen is awesome. I mean, no doubt about it.
Cool. Chris, how does it feel? I mean, Kickstarters. For a start, Kickstarters are difficult. Not only have you got
they're very difficult.
You've only got indie guys trying to make their way and trying to get their wares out there. You've got to compete with comic book companies. You've got to compete with genuine, not genuine, actual. What's the word I'm looking for? Big name, Daisy.
Sure.
What are you saying here? What are you saying?
You've got to deal with big name creators, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Johns on there. Scott Snyder's on there. These big names that pull all the people into New York COVID Central. I mean Comic Con. Then these are the people that. And Chris, your book's absolutely nailing it. That's impressive.
So I work for Magnetic Press, and one of our main pillars of our business is putting books on Kickstarter, specifically international books that Americans don't usually have access to or aren't translated, or they're amazing books from France, the UK, Spain, all over the place.
I like how you said UK as if that has to be translated.
Just a couple of words, right?
Yeah.
Like bathroom to live.
Yeah. And take out governor.
It's a very easy translation.
We have quite a few translators who translate all those. And that's a whole other herd of cats to herd, right?
Yeah.
But, I have a lot of experience with Kickstarter from doing that. So while I'm not surprised it was funded, I'm surprised at the amount that was funded because we always do our projections, right? And this was a new property that no one ever heard of. It's packaged as this new thing, and it doesn't have a history. And I've been working in comic books for 10, almost 15 years, and on all sides of production and management and stuff. And a lot of the times I'm behind the scenes. So I certainly don't have a name that warrants over $100,000. And Mark was new to this coming in, and learning from my experiences on how to do this, right?
Now I'm old to this.
Yeah,
Literally.
no, I had to learn a lot too.
He's old Jersey, not New Jersey.
Yeah. So yeah, certainly pleasantly surprised. I followed everything I knew. I had the support of my publisher that I work for, Magnetic Press, who we're partnered with. Kind of guiding me and helping me and trusting me and trusting us to run this and run wild with it and get all these creators together and do it. So yeah, I'm not surprised it was funded. I'm surprised how much it was funded, and I'm thrilled at the reception.
Wow, excellent. Cool. What we're going to do, we're going to take a look at the trailer that's on the Kickstarter. All right. So before everyone pauses the video and goes chasing off the Kickstarter when you see the address, just want to tell you right now, it's fully funded, dudes.
Yes,
It's over.
It's over. Yeah, I'm joking. I'm sure there'll be other ways to get the book, and we'll talk about that later on in the show.
Yes.
Here's the trailer for the book, and we can go from there. Let's add this in there. He says, waiting for technology to catch up. There it is.
There it is.
Here we go. Is it working?
It's there, I promise.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
It's artsy. It's really just very clean.
Do we have to wait a while? Is that how it works?
What's happening?
Maybe it won't display the video because it's on the page.
There it is.
There it is.
I look through the glass, but the other side's foggy. Who would have thought you'd be this sturdy? Wipe my eyes so you could stay the night just one more time. No, if I let you go, you'll be a ghost. You'll be crying, like losing yourself, falling back into you. Now I'm black and blue, sent to seek help, but I don't mind this view. I can't get through. I'm seeing red, wish I were dead. Ran out of meds, voices in my head, losing myself. You let me down, then give me daisies. I'm a clown for thinking you're safe with me.
Wow, that looks absolutely the bomb. I have got to say, I'm watching that, I'm thinking, whoa, no wonder you did so well. It's like a movie all by itself.
I mean, that's really honestly what we were going for, and quite honestly, so much of so many of the artists were coming back saying it just feels very cinematic. And even if this poster by our concept artist who ended up doing the soft cover, the trade paperback. He literally did a full size movie poster, and I mean, like, the details on this are incredible. I mean, it's just like this thing is like 40 inches tall, 600 DPI.
Yeah, that big empty space right there over my couch.
That's where it's gonna go on.
That's where it's going. This is my home office. That's where it's going.
Yeah, and that soundtrack, that's a custom soundtrack. That is a custom song. If you saw toward the end of the trailer, there's a woman who's a pop star singing, and that's actually, if you go to Spotify or any of your favorite services from Apple Music and whatnot, and you look up Lily Prime.
I've written it down on my pad to ask about the song.
Cool.
So
Lily Prime is you can actually download that song, an in-world character,
what's it called?
one of her songs, and that song appears in the book.
The song is called "Losing Myself."
Losing Myself by Lily Prime.
Yes. So you'll find it if you look for it on everything.
All right, cool. I have made a note. It sounds great.
That trailer, I'll just say that trailer. I went through several versions of that trailer what you saw is actually based on one of the first trailers that I cut before even all the art came in, because I think we knew how to present this very, very early on, and fussing about it because new artwork came in wasn't the right move. So I think that we had that song for a long time too. So just the trailer is everything. It's the first thing people see, right? So, you know, I just went with my gut instinct on which one was the best version of the trailer, and it really was the first version. Like, it really spoke to what this was. So
it's such a clever idea, isn't it? If you think about, you know, you've got 15 black boxes chronicling a period of human travel or human adventure or human survival, and then we get to see that from the outside looking in, kind of thing. What was the inspiration behind that? Obviously, black boxes we know in real world are the data recorder of flights, so we can see what happens in crashes and all that sort of stuff. What made the transition from being that to being the human experience?
Yeah, I think that it's obviously inspired, like you said, by the real flight data recorders. They call them black boxes. They're actually orange, but but when you hear about these, plane crashes and whatnot, what people tend to forget, we like to analyze it. You see the flight controls, and you see the altitude, and you see the direction, but there's up to 300, 400 people on these planes. Each one of these has a story and a life and family and friends. And what went wrong involves a story, a mechanic mistake, an engineering mistake, a hostile event. It could be, so many interesting, tragic events. There could be a married couple returning from their honeymoon, and all that's left is this black box and a cockpit data recorder. And we thought that would be just an amazing framework to put into a sci-fi anthology where each illustrator got to interpret, like, here's a black box, here's what happened to this spaceship several hundred years in the future, and what happened to the people on board.
I think getting one issue out on a Kickstarter with one story is hard work. You guys decided to go with, let me just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 different stories, including an introduction and an afterword by a host of people. Mark, you've stepped up to the plate. You've written some stuff. Chris, you've written some stuff in there as well. And then not only that, you've got to juggle spin the plates of all the artists and inkers and so on and so forth. Chris, you mentioned you're the letterer before the pod, so dude, you're getting like some you're getting some pay, aren't you? You know, co-founder, writer, letterer.
Our fingerprints are all over this. Mark says all the time. I'm a wearer of many hats at Magnetic Press. When I worked for Legendary and I worked for Boom and Archaea and other companies, Dark Horse, I also wore many hats. For it's funny in this property, in this book in Black Box, I don't color anything, and I've been a comic book colorist. That has been my solid main role in comic books for a very long time, and I chose not to color any of it. Because it was so much management and so much production with that many people working on it, and just nights of Mark and I just like troubleshooting stories and like, this doesn't work, and the order of things, and all kinds of stuff behind the scenes that you don't even think about normally, right? Like, it's just so much work to put it out. You're right, it's insane to put out 15 stories and
we ripped the Band-Aid right off. We just went like, let's go for it. And we feel like an OGN is going to be like, oh, you mean just one?
Just one?
One story and one artist and one color.
It's also very difficult to, these stories are 10 to 12 pages. Some of them are longer. It's at 14, 16, I believe one of them is. But it's really hard to tell those stories that you want to tell in an anthology where they're smaller. So figuring out how to still convey all the emotion and all the beats that you have to hit, right?
Yeah.
and keeping the theme consistent across the entire body of work.
That was my next question. Because
Hard.
Mark, you've written a fair chunk of this. Chris, you've written elements in there, and I've noticed on the credits page, you guys swap. Sometimes it's Mark with Chris, and then sometimes it's
Mark in the lead, Chris in the lead. We talked
Yeah.
about how we're listing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like so almost everyone, I would say, we have like Chris said, our fingerprints. Like so Chris would do the lettering, and one of the benefits of having Chris as the letterer and a co-creator on it is that we would do a screen share with InDesign open, and we would do read-throughs and go, wait, this line might be a little bit punchier if we just added this word. Like we had a lot of, by having Chris working the production, and being a creative on it, working together as a team, we were able, I believe, to
kind of zero
something that would have been almost impossible to do otherwise. Because if we had to send everything out to another letterer and then get it back and wait, that we were able to do real-time changes, like just of a word that went, wow, that works a lot better.
Yeah.
So things like that were absolutely helpful.
So anthology, a bit of sci-fi. So in my head, I'm seeing influences like 2000 AD, which is probably the world's greatest anthology book. Sorry. And of course,
not the biggest Kickstarter though.
It wasn't. You're right. It's not the biggest Kickstarter. You're right. You're right.
No.
You're right. But when I think of anthology books, that's the one I go
respect.
to. Because I'm British, it's one I've you
Sure.
can give me all your Marvel Comics Presents and Dark Comics Presents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
2000 AD.
It doesn't really compare to 2000. No.
But
that's where it's at.
Yeah, I'll say that. Bit of Black Mirror in there, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that there's little bits of Black Mirror, The Expanse, The Last of Us. In terms of The Last of Us, there's what we these are a lot of tragedies, a lot of downers, but we wanted to make sure that there were little moments of hope, so you're not like just depressed the whole book, because that's the trick here. You have this kind of what I thought was a really cool connective tissue between the stories, which is they're all a black box. Everyone who hears it, all the artists, that's how we got half of them on board. It's like that's really cool. And then we're writing these and it's like, this is really depressing. So
yeah, we just had a backer write us and say this book was great, and but this one story made me really, really sad.
It's supposed to make you sad. That's the point.
Yeah, I mean it is. But but what so like The Last of Us is also like kind of a sad story, whether you played the game or possibly saw the HBO show. But anyway,
I'm sorry.
So some of the listeners who might be hearing about it though, there is the moments of humanity, and there's love, and there's hope. There's hope still. We still give just enough nuggets where you want to keep going and go like this is not just brutal. Like there's some brutal moments, but there I feel like there's still like moments where you're just like, oh, that's sweet.
I suppose that's part and parcel of the actual modus operandi. The black box only comes into effect, or we only hear about it in the real world in effect when something goes wrong. We never hear that. Hey, we've got the black box. We managed to fly from London to Mexico. Woo! Yeah, check us out.
Yeah, that's not particularly dramatic, right? So we still want the drama, but we also got to make sure the drama isn't just like people we are learning to enjoy, just dying horribly, right? So there
also in these stories, not everyone dies all the time.
No, there's some surprises. There's some ways. Ships
like a ship can crash, with the box, or
there could be a survivor
outside of the ship. So there's a little bit of that too.
Cool.
We found creative ways to use the black boxes because I didn't want every single story to be about a spaceship exploding, right? So I was like, how could this technology, if it's just ubiquitous and it's used in the world, be used in other ways? There's one story with police officers, health agents, and they go to arrest somebody, and they have police have body cams, right? So in this world, they actually use little tiny versions of black boxes because they're so good of a technology in this world to record what their public servants are doing. When they go out and they arrest somebody.
Accelerometers, cameras,
Yeah,
they're much more advanced versions of today's body.
Yeah, so that was like, well, how can we get black boxes like off of spaceships for a little bit, right?
But that one does feature a spaceship crash.
That one does, yes, of course, but
there's still some
most of the story has been recorded on someone's body
but
cam.
there were some clever ways.
Black box. So it was cool to find ways to do that also. So there are some surprises in how the black boxes are used and where they show up. They're not all on spaceships, is what I'm saying.
Cool.
So,
good shout. Yeah. Good point, well made. Excellent. Right, before we dive into the book and we have a look at some pages and we have a look at the Kickstarter, time for an advert for one of our other shows. You know what? I think we'll go with this one. It's been a while. It was my birthday recently, so I am officially now even older than I was when we started this. It is the Old Timers Comic Book Show.
Do you want to find out what makes the professor do his happy dance? Check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show only on the UCPN.
I mean, I want to know why the professor.
Now I'm curious.
Not me.
Now I'm curious.
Right, so the Old Timers Comic Book Show. It's where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. So basically, we pick the figure, 25 years. We go back 25 years plus, and we talk about all the comics of yesteryear.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
The reason why the professor's so happy is because he gets to pick books he likes instead of reading the turgid amount of Marvel books that are currently sitting on shelves, gathering dust. There you go.
I hear that.
So
I'm not going to comment because I'm more of the business-minded one.
It's fine. Marvel don't ring me up and say, "Hey, Machine, we've got a book coming out. It's called Captain Marvel. Do you need to do some promo?" I'm like, "You need me to do promo on Captain Marvel? You must be going like." Yeah.
They're going to need a black box.
Yeah, we're going to need something. But the professor is an old school Marvel fan from years ago. He loves the original Avengers, Cap. He loves Mark Grunwald, all that sort of stuff. So we tend to talk about stuff that we like to talk about rather than have to sort of like see with that grin on our face saying, "Yes, this issue of insert big two title is really good." It's not really good.
Yeah.
You know, we're independent. We can say what we like. It's fine.
That's true.
We're not. UCPN and Comic Crusaders are not owned by anybody that's like a conglomerate. So we don't count out at Warner's. We don't count out at Disney. You know, it is the true expression of free will. We can say what we like within reason.
I do not have that luxury.
That's fine. I won't expect you to vote on that. We're going to have a look at some of the art on some of the pages of the book. I noticed in the book early doors there's a little bit of text and pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Was that to try to because normally that sort of format and comic books don't normally gel particularly well.
Or prose type stuff in the intro.
Yeah.
I think Mark and I discussed we discussed several times about maybe doing an opening crawl, right? Some type of prose. And then it just became like, you know what, let's just do like 2 pages of world building.
Oh, yeah.
Just set the stage so people can just like go in, you know?
Yeah.
And it basically just, says what a black box is, like where humanity is at this point. And then we jump right into this, and this is the scavenger, who's the character who's collecting these black boxes that you're watching when you're reading the book. It's a profession in the world to collect these black boxes because they're worth a lot of money because they just contain very valuable data about these spaceships.
Secrets.
Yeah, perhaps secrets that people have that they want people not to know or to know. So
I guess with your fingerprints all over it, the pair of you, the scavenger becomes the constant within the stories, regardless of how they kind of dovetail around that.
Correct. In fact, every title page will have a quote by the scavenger recording every one of the black boxes in this particular anthology has been collected by the scavenger.
You'll see it on the next page after this one. So
Yeah,
that
so
that's
you'll see his log.
So that's the location of the recovery of the box.
Mm-hmm.
When that ship went down, where it was recovered, because it's not always the same as where it went down, and the type of black box that it was. So
And along the bottom, the
yeah,
timeline as well.
yeah, and there's a timeline on the bottom showing you how far in the past this thing was collected. Because you can, if you have a spacefaring civilization that's been doing it for a couple of thousand years, the black boxes you find are going to be from over a wide period of time, right? So that's definitely what you're seeing down there with the timeline. So
cool.
Yeah.
So space travel in the book, is it hyperspace, light speed travel?
I can't go. I don't want to go into
sorry.
There's actually some kind of fun pieces about that.
All right, so we'll leave that there.
But I will say that where it starts and what you're looking at right now is the beginning of what's called the Great Outward Expansion, and this is when everyday humans are able to start getting into space.
Okay.
Our solar system, as we refer to that as Sol Prime.
Okay.
And basically, we're at this point where it's no longer corporations and countries that are able to get into space, but everyday people. But by everyday people, we mean like affluent people in the beginning. Yeah. As you would imagine, the first people who can buy private jets, right?
Buy a car and all that sort of thing, right?
All those things, right? And then as time goes on in our story, more and more people are able to have a piece of the universe.
Cool. What was it like, Mark? You mentioned you of the two, you're more creative with Chris. I'm not sorry. I misspoke. I apologize.
No. He means
I am more creative though.
Mark, there was a point in this where I was writing a lot, right? And then there was a point where we were like, we have to delegate this because it needs to get done. So it's perfectly fine to say that.
I apologize if I have misspoke.
Yeah, I mean, Chris actually takes a lot of pride as a
pride.
producer and in terms of the production and the quality of the book. So I was just kind of teasing about being more.
Put my name second. It's fine because this book would not have happened without Mark. Okay, because Mark
and likewise, it wouldn't happen without Chris. And I know this sounds like
you convinced me that that I'm actually competent enough and I have enough experience to handle this, right? So there's a little bit of coaching going on, like you can do this, right? So that's
send me in, coach. I can do this.
Yeah, put me in, coach. I can do it. So I have no problem admitting that I'm some mastermind behind it, like running it.
Yeah, he's behind the curtain. He's the curtain. He's the wizard.
And I wrote some of them, so it's perfectly fine to frame it.
We both recognize each other's talents and weak spots and whatnot, and we utilize them, and I think that's what helped.
Yes.
So,
but yes,
the brunt of my question now that I've managed to avoid insulting everybody is that you've got the character, the ongoing character who we visit through his travels and so on. That in itself is a hard thing to accomplish when you've got different artists coming in.
Yeah. From
Mark's point of view, Chris, from your point of view, it's even harder because now you're thinking, if you were the colorist, then at least you know what each story is going to look like, and now you have to deal with this planet's like really dark, and this planet's like, hey, it's really sunny. And this one's Gotham and this one's Metropolis.
Right.
You've got to try and
Yeah. If I was coloring a lot of this or a large chunk of it, I would have much more control over how cohesive this is. Absolutely. If we had like a colorist who was like doing most of them or all of them, which we discussed, like maybe the same color should do all of it. Well, I remember saying that in the beginning, right? But ultimately doing that would really, when you just speaking as a colorist, the every piece of art, every artist needs something different, and every colorist brings something different to the table. They're all competent. Like I'm perfectly competent too. But it's just, certain people work well together. There's other ways to make these things gel besides robbing the line work of the best coloring for that line work that's possible. So we made a decision to create our teams And if an artist was comfortable with using a colorist that they've used in the past that they thought brought their art to another level, we were sure not to force anyone on anyone who didn't want that person. Of course there's like scheduling and like you have to make sure the person's available, but usually when they come packaged with someone that they work with all the time, that person, follows and will do an excellent job on their coloring. And all the colorists were very understanding that, we wanted everything to look different, but, this is what a black box looks like. This is what this planet showed up in another story, so make it look like that. They had their reference and everything. So, and those pages before everything, we talked with my boss at Magnetic, Mike Kennedy, about it. It was his suggestion to do it, to put these logs from the scavenger before that kind of pepper in information, right? And I think that really helps bridge everything together.
Definitely.
Really make it feel like it's a scavenger's collection of boxes.
Cool.
The point is not to restrict anybody, right?
Yeah.
It's like we hired them to have variety.
Yeah.
We expect variety. So,
you know what? I agree wholeheartedly. If you've got a universe out there, you don't want it to look, every planet at least look the same. And
right.
if, different color schemes, different color skies.
Yeah, look at Mark likes this. Look at Star Wars Visions. They don't tell them what to do. They go, here's the rules for Star Wars. Like, we all know the rules. I'm sure they get a sheet of paper that says
I don't think everybody knows the rules in Star Wars.
I
don't think Star Wars knows the rules on Star Wars.
Star Wars Visions specifically, which is
the animated stuff on Disney Plus. They have their own style, their own color style.
But yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why we really liked the black box aspect was, if you think about it, when you're recreating a crash, a bunch of experts are going to come and they're not going to have the definitive truth of that crash. They're going to give their best guess. We're going to get a 3D animated simulation of what the crash looked like. We're going to guess. We're going to try to find as much information as possible. So in a way, I loved the idea that each artist is going to look at the script as the black box data and interpret it.
Yeah, like interpret it.
Right. So it actually has a storytelling component.
It has a built-in logic. Why?
Yeah. So that was actually early on a conscious decision.
Yeah.
That's a really good shout. That is a really great explanation. That one person, would see a set of data as meaning this, and another one sees another set of data meaning something completely different. Absolutely, I think that's absolutely spot on. I think I think you've pretty much nailed a great idea there. Absolutely, well done. I tip my hat, sirs.
Thank you. We will tip ours because we actually have them. But yeah, and so then the second component was about halfway through, we realized we brought on a concept designer, Shane Molina. Now, all of our illustrators are fully competent and amazing, but they all have their different styles. And we realized that by having our own concept designer who can start giving references of locations and places and the types of technology, we realized that it would be helpful to the illustrators. They could still go any direction they want, but if we make the world look consistent, especially during similar time periods, we thought that would be helpful. So there's certain locations you're going to see in multiple stories. There's certain spaceships you might see in multiple stories, or certain characters. By using Shane, we found it added a consistency despite the different illustrators as well.
That's a good call. Because you are playing in the same universe, so there has to be some kind of natural, I suppose, awareness that this planet is blue and it's going to stay blue.
Yeah, in a way, the way I call it is like our ground truth is like the bookends. Those are what the actual world is, because they're not being recorded on a black box. Those are the scavenger bookends.
Yeah, you're just
everything in between is kind of like open for some interpretation.
Excellent. Loving this. Let me ask this question before we have a look at the Kickstarter. Very science fiction oriented. Are you guys sci-fi fans of a while ago? Or is this
long term? I mean, all the way back to like early Spielberg, Close Encounters, up all the way through Interstellar. in terms
Yeah.
of films. I mean, across the board. I mean, but yes, big sci-fi fans.
I'm on the same page with Mark. My list
Blade
is
Runner.
very similar to Mark's as far as what I consume and appreciate. Historically, I've worked in fantasy stuff and not sci-fi with comic books, which is a shame because I'm a really big science fiction person. But there's crossover between those two things. But we made very sure in this book that we were going for like very grounded science fiction, like trying to really create a world that felt real and not too fantastical. So there were rules, and there were times where we both kept each other in check and said that's too far out there, we have to pull that back. This would work just as well without something so fantastic, right?
I remember,
no, that's it.
when I was a kid, I was into Star Wars the first time around. And my dad was very much, you can't like Star Wars if you don't like any other stuff that went before it. I was like, what are you talking about? So we ended up watching films like This Island Earth, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all those cult 50s B-rate sci-fis.
The original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I mean, and War of the Worlds, for example. Even the special effects of that. I mean, when you see the shields glowing, and I mean, it's just fantastic.
Forbidden Planet with Disney doing the animation for the monster coming through the
Doctor Who.
Yeah, I'm British.
I know, so I'm
a huge Doctor Who fan. Like, I haven't been able to keep up. Huge Star Trek fan. I haven't been able to keep up with modern Who or Trek because I'm so busy with work. And I have to pick and choose what I can watch, right? So, but no, huge fan of those things. Crazy Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side. Those are anthology series.
That's a good show.
I have John Carpenter's Body Bags, like all those anthology series, mostly from the 80s. I love them.
Have I seen your name on a Doctor Who project recently, Chris?
No, but I'm friends with a lot of people who work on Doctor Who comics. So no, but I worked on the year before I started working with Mark, actually 2 years of it, was I worked on Critical Role. The Vox Machina book through Dark Horse. I did a ton of again on that project. I did coloring, lettering, management stuff, like InDesign, book, like every hat, right? So script advice, right? Because the first time they ever made a book, Matt Mercer and Coville and stuff. So I'd say that prepared me for this too. Because I taught Mark a lot about making comics, and he taught me a lot about making good business decisions and about time. So
cool. I've recently seen the new Doctor Who book that's coming out from Titan Comics, written by Dan Slott, and it absolutely rocks if you like Doctor Who.
Yeah, it looks great. I did see it. So yeah.
Right. So we have some guest artists. You have real artists who have contributed massively to the book. We cover by David Mack, Michael. Terrible with names. Avon Oming.
Yeah,
Eisner winner for Powers with Brian Bendis.
It's interesting how the different styles, I wouldn't expect that level of realism when it comes to science fiction. And then you've got Giovanni Rigano, who then gives it a different complex, different text.
What's the one below? So David Mack is actually the one. I'm sorry, Mike Oming is the one. So it's the top one right now is David Mack. Drew Moss is below.
Yeah, Drew Moss is below. Michael, so this one's Michael. I apologize. And then you've got the more manga style going on now with the big eyes.
Very
Disney. He's I believe he's done 2 of the official Disney interpretations for children's books for like Pirates of the Caribbean, possibly one of those.
Yeah, he's definitely worked on DuckTales and stuff like that. So yeah.
This stuff. Let's see. Zach Howard, is this Zach Howard here that I'm looking at now? This bottom one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one, and including the pages that you showed earlier. Yes.
Gorgeous. Absolutely love that. That absolutely is right in my wheelhouse. Love
Yeah,
it.
that's the stuff that like definitely reminds me of like 2000 AD. Like those pages really, they feel like that. So
definitely.
Yeah, so Dave Messina, works on Star Wars. He did the recent Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Cool. So you've got artists who are used to working in science fiction or in some shape or form. So that's pretty cool,
most of
right?
them, yeah,
Most of them, yes.
most of them.
Cool. And that way, they don't have to they can go out there and draw their own
Yeah,
starships.
David Messina knows what a spaceship looks like.
He's drawn quite a few Millennium Falcons.
Millennium Falcons.
I was going to say, if you can draw the Millennium Falcon, you've got game. That thing is uglier than Superman's symbol to try and draw.
Sure.
Yes.
I did read somewhere that it was inspired by a pickle and a hamburger.
That's hilarious.
I call it a hamburger.
Yeah, there's
two pie plates or
no. It was a pick. There's a book called I think it's Star Wars: The Figures. It's a black and gold book.
Yeah.
It came out about 25, 30 years ago, and it's like a collection of articles about the Kenner and Palitoy figures that you used to be able to get back in the 70s and 80s.
Sure.
And it shows you some of the design concepts of the starships, and it says that the Millennium Falcon was a hamburger and a pickle on the side.
just like the pickle standing out, and that's where
the cockpit is.
That's a really interesting shape.
Yeah, so I can't.
Look, not surprising if true. It is designed for characters or ships or anything that's you're going to interact with. It's all about the silhouette.
Yeah.
So if you see a silhouette that's interesting, go for it.
I love the Falcon. The Falcon is my favorite.
And that is what Star Wars did right. It has the best silhouettes. The X-wing.
It does.
It looks like an X.
Yeah.
I mean, people like simple. The Y-wing. Guess what that looks like, right? And then here comes the scruffy looking nerf herder in his weird asymmetrical
jalopy of a spaceship
hamburger. I mean, but yeah, I mean, like it's not only defining the character, but also just easily identifiable. I say I didn't make this up, of course, but it's like score on sight. When you're going back and forth in a space battle, you don't want to be like, who's that? TIE fighter, bad guy.
Yeah,
that's why the lasers are green and the lasers are red.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The lightsabers are red or blue. Yeah,
in the real world, if we were flying around in outer space shooting lasers, they'd probably all be the same color.
They'd be the same color. The ships would be almost the same. We'd be just confused and shooting each other.
Yeah,
it would be like a Transformers movie where you don't know which robot's which.
It's cutting every 10 frames. Something exploded. I think it was cool.
The thing about movies that's always hard in comic books, like by comparison, is in film, you have so many more widgets to use to differentiate things and show things, right? You have sound, you have actual movement, the way something moves. You have speed to show how, right? There's so many other ways to flesh out your story, right? Music, sound effects. You don't have it in comic books. In comic books, it's up to the reader to decide what the pacing is, and you can only control it so much. You can control it with your intent, with the way the lettering is, the coloring. You have a good colorist, you can really control it. But a lot of it is up to the reader. So it's really interesting now to hear people go, oh man, that one made me really sad. Oh, that was like a really good story. Or like that was too short, or that felt long, right? Like a 10-page story could feel really long, and like a 20-page story could feel really short. It all has to do with the pacing and how you control the pacing and what the reader's bringing into from their own brain. So it's always fascinating when it leaves your hands and it goes to other people.
I recently interviewed a couple of horror writers on comic book horror writers, and I said on the show, it's really hard, I think, to do. It's really hard to do horror in comic books.
Yes,
watch the movie.
Yeah,
you've got
jump scare.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do the jump scare. You've got the music that changes that tells you something's going to go, and you've got the swinging door of which, when you know it opens up again, someone's that's it.
The refrigerator.
Or the
Yeah,
psycho.
that's it. So it's really
soundtrack,
hard to,
but
other
always
than
harmony.
that page turn.
Yeah,
You've
and then
got
like,
to really,
and not only
find
that,
out.
but also like leaving things in frame, right?
Mm.
Like how you frame things, right? Comic book panels of all different sizes, right? Having a consistent panel size movies means you can do different things, right? I mean, they all come with plus and minuses, right?
Yeah, that's why we love them all. So
That's why they're different. That's fine,
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a challenge for sure. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see Black Box outside of its comic book medium? Do you see? Oh, well, do you want to think about that for a second? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we already have. We always saw the original anthology as a sandbox that would eventually grow beyond us, and that would be my ultimate dream, at least. I think Chris agrees, but like, it's like, we want to create this new universe, a new IP that has a very realistic. I mean, we have a system of laws. We have a system of expansion. We have new lines of careers. The Scavenger, for example, and there's others. And we think that the other writers and illustrators will have a lot of fun playing in the sandbox. So beyond that, we also think screenwriters and filmmakers would have fun playing in that sandbox. Cool. Game makers, video game makers would have fun. That's not the original intent. The original intent is to make the best graphic novel, but of course you're thinking, like, if we make here's the thing: if you have a great setup, a great world with interesting characters and interesting themes, I think that it becomes inevitable that you're going to want to see it in different mediums.
Yeah, I think that's a common goal for a lot of people, is to we'll put the book out, or we'll put a project out, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So that's there's nothing absolutely wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
In fact, it's how people are consuming their material now. So,
yeah, I would love any format for this to be viewed in, right? Okay. I'm not partial to the book format, right? If it can be, you're looking at it digitally, that's fine. If there was an animated version of it, that's fine. If there's and these are different mediums. So I'm also not one of these creators, and Mark isn't a creator like this either, where it's we don't understand the other mediums. Like, we understand that things change. We understand, like, I'm talking about the limitations of mediums and what other ones offer and stuff and everything like that.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. So if I was to see this anywhere else, in whatever form it would be, I would be absolutely thrilled, whatever form it takes.
I'm old school. I like comic books in my hand and grab.
Well, then this is a hell of a hardcover.
Thanks. There's the cover. Gorgeous. I love the idea that it's fractured. Give me 2 seconds. I'll put your big screen. 2 seconds.
There it is.
Yeah. So this is the actual finished final.
There you go.
Production, but with a spot gloss, metallic logo.
Very good.
I mean, it's just Magnetic just makes these gorgeous, with rounded corners. They don't, spare no expense.
We really believe, and I think that's why we have such a following, and Kickstarter has become such a reliable thing for Magnetic to use to get these books going and bring them overseas and make new ones like this, is the production value. What's going to, in a world where people are buying more and more stuff digital, like over here in the States, like Best Buy, huge retailer, not selling movies anymore in their stores, right? That's just what's happening,
Yeah.
But, for the person who wants to buy something physical, it has to be a very premium product. It's going to have to be,
Agreed.
in this world, right? Otherwise, you're just going to end up owning a bunch of licenses that you really don't own. Technically, you own a license when you even buy this book, right? But it's not the same as having a digital license where it can be revoked at any time. Yeah. So there will always be physical stuff. but that stuff needs to be at a level where it justifies, creating it. So even the soft cover,
this is the trade paperback, and it's got the rounded corners.
It still has the foil.
It's just beautiful. Even like the artwork coming up to the corners. I mean, it's just I think it's stunning. And as a creator who's been working on this with Chris, and looking at only digital files, I only saw these about a week ago, roughly. For the first time, and actually got to hold them.
Right.
Other than like a proof that I had made myself, just to be able to hold it, because like you, there's just something about the page flip.
Isn't there?
Just scrolling down is just not the same. And even from a writing standpoint, we're talking about the difference in and how to use the medium and whatnot. One of the benefits of this medium is that page flip effect. And
it's very real.
The idea that before something happens, I mean, you could get a little bit of that horror effect, right? You can have a door, and then the door is creaking open, then you turn the page and you're physically opening that door. So like in a way you become a character. If you're scared, you're going to slowly turn that page. It changes the way you read. If you're scrolling on a digital, it just doesn't hit.
Also it depends on the format, because I know when I look at digital comics, splash pages don't work.
No, they're not. They're not as grand. They're not.
You get one half, and then you have to scroll down to see the other half, and then you've got to say like, well, how does that make?
When you're looking at something in a guided view, right? So a guided view in digital comics is kind of like making the comic not a comic anymore and making it more like a film, because now you're guiding and controlling, right? So it's not the same as reading it just like verbatim on a page.
It's like the worst of both worlds. It's almost like remember pan and scan? Do you remember when like laser discs?
That is exactly what it is.
Like you zoom in, and some guy who was not approved by the director would sit there with a joystick and just like go back and forth, because the director had chosen to put on a widescreen 2 characters speaking on opposite ends of the frame. And what did they do? They would digitally just do this annoying little back and forth scan. And I feel like a bit of that is happening because we're not, Chris and I aren't choosing the motion.
No, we don't tell Comixology what to do, and we don't get to approve it.
Don't get me started. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So
I had a Comixology account, and I bought some comics, and I changed mobile devices, and I went loaded up the Comixology app and went to get my stuff that I'd bought. It was like, oh, sorry, you've changed your device. It's loaded to that device. It's not loaded to you. I'm like, wait a second, I've already paid money for this. So that's fine. Anyway,
that said, if someone wants to buy it digitally and they have a gorgeous iPad, like
go for it.
I will say
sometimes
this.
It is cool.
Yeah.
There's something nice about having
we certainly
different comics on one.
We certainly looked at it for a year on these monitors we have, right? Like Mark and I both have really good monitors, so like our desktop monitors are like comparable to an iPad Pro, like the new
not an anti-monitor.
So if you're gonna look at it on there, that's fine. That's how we were looking at it for a long time. So it's
let me quantify this then. I am an old school reader. I like the physical. However, that said, for Kickstarters, I 100,000,000% agree that it should be a PDF version. Because how else do you curb shipping costs? I don't mind chipping in to buy the book. I do mind having to spend $30 to get the book shipped from wherever to me. Then that comes cost prohibitive. So I get there's a place for PDFs and digital. And
that's why it's like the production value is so high, right? Exactly. Because if you can invest in the production value and people are seeing a high shipping cost, they're knowing that they're getting something that's a super high production value that they're not going to get at the retail. So then it offsets their impression of a shipping.
Agreed.
So that's part of it too. I mean, honestly, I would design the books like that anyway, because they sell better when they look better, right? But it definitely helps people understand, costs, right? And when something ends up being $100,000, over $100,000, we've had Kickstarters on Magnetic that were $250, right? So it's like once it gets to a certain point of what it's making, it's really on you to make it more of a value for people, right? Take that money and put it back into it, right? Don't put it in your pocket. Like put what's feasible back into it, right? Because you have to pay for your operations. People are always like, well, where does all the extra money in the Kickstarter go? Does that go in go in your pocket? Yes, because we worked. Yes, absolutely. Nothing for a year, right? Like all the other things we could have been doing, right? Anything else, right? But a large portion of it should go back to
into the production,
right? And up the product.
Because it's ultimately an investment in the IP.
Yeah.
Because the more beautiful the book is, the more people, like if you see behind Chris, you know, like all the books he has set up.
These are all
you have a
every
collection
book here I produced at Magnetic Press. Every book on this shop.
And there are people who collect, who don't work for Magnetic Press, who collect Magnetic Press properties. And of course, just graphic novels in general. And if you're a gorgeous one, some people don't even read, you know, all of them, you know, but they look gorgeous.
What's
you
this? Don't read thing?
Oh,
crazy.
Crazy.
Just like looking at the pictures of it. But no.
Yeah. That's Playboy. You're getting it mixed up with something else.
You just do flip book. But yeah, I mean, look, it's an investment. You know, like you don't have to do spot gloss, but spot gloss is gonna, you know, when you pick up this book, I feel like you get like a halo. You immediately go, I think I might enjoy this. If this was a horrible quality, and it was like, you know, just like the cheapest paper, your first impression is going to be, it's like watching a movie trailer, and you're like, those special effects didn't look that great. But if you watch that trailer and it's like, wow, that's gorgeous. Yeah, you're going to give the book a bigger chance, I think.
It's the TLC, the tender loving care, right?
TLC.
It matters. It matters, you know. And you know, we made the conscious decision of like, you know, we're making a trade paperback version for retail. You know, that's a lower entry point. That's not as expensive as a hardcover with all these bells and whistles. And that you can only get the hardcover with the David Mack cover like that on the Kickstarter. And so, that makes them feel like they got something exclusive, which they did, you know, because no one else is going to get it.
And they supported us the earliest as well.
And they supported us the earliest, so they should get it, right? So, and they also but that's not it, you know, because we have stock left over, right? So the stock is available in the Magnetic store of the hardcover, but you will never be able to get it at retail. Those people helped us on Kickstarter; they get the best version. You know?
So this is my last question. Definitely, because the Kickstarter's over and you've done fantastically well. Where can people get a copy of the book? We've got your Instagram there. We've got the website there as well. Where can if I want to go and buy the book, where can I get it now that I've missed on the
So right now at this very moment, if you go to that address down there, blackboxchronicles.com, you can pre-order the book right now and it'll be sent to you by Magnetic Press. That's what you can do right now. On November 28th, that week at the end of November, the softcover trade version will be in the stores. The beautiful, amazing Kickstarter version, that's the link you want to go to get it. That's the only way you're going to get it is on there with the David Mack cover and everything. So,
the softcover, is that just US stores or is that international?
Right now, it's just the United States and territories, but we're already talking about licensing and.
And I do have, if you don't mind, the diamond code. If you want to talk about your local,
you can give them the diamond code in your store.
So it's JUL, like almost like the beginning of July.
Just 1 second.
231-803.
Diamond code is. Say that again for me, please.
So JUL 231-803.
And also, if you go to Magnetic Press's website, that's it right there. And if you go to Magnetic Press's website, just poking around, you will see right now, I just put it up, Black Box Chronicles is a huge banner on the main page, and there's a landing page with the diamond codes and ordering and everything. You know, if you want to get it early before it's in the stores, like this kind of midway between the Kickstarter and the stores, you can go on there right now. We have all of our inventory. It's all ready to go.
Because we also want to support like all the local comic book shops as well.
Yes,
these guys are awesome, and you know, it's a tough business, and
it's very hard.
Retail is in general is hard, and we would you know, go to your favorite store, tell them the diamond code, and they can get you a copy.
Cool.
We'll sell them.
Right, we're at that point. We've got a little bit over. I don't mind. Give me the best 60-second pitch on why people should be heading over to the websites to get this book. Mark.
You're not gonna do this, Chris?
No, I'm gonna let you go. I got my own.
Apparently, Mark, you're the creative one. He said, "I don't know." You just sent me a message.
Come up with something. You're the creative one.
I'm the creative. Well, so you got to produce this. Basically, like, I mean, if you want to support new IPs of, hard sci-fi that has a human element, with an amazing roster of incredibly talented, Eisner-winning artists, with great production value, and not just an anthology, but an anthology with connective tissue between stories that you'll see the same characters appear in different ones. And not to mention that Chris and I have, this is a story that's going somewhere. We're not going to leave you stranded like a lot of franchises or television shows might have, where you've been donating a lot of time and energy and in the fandom, and suddenly it's like, where were they going? We actually started.
Then you end up lost.
Yeah. Oh. I could give you 815 reasons why that's a bad idea. But the fact is that Chris and I didn't want that to happen. So we have a lot of plans, and everything in here. We want you to be able to see stuff that we produce 5, 6, 7 years from now and go, wait, version 1, that character actually already appeared. Ooh, that was interesting of them. So if you're interested in just like smart stories where we actually don't treat you like handheld, you can handle a little bit of sadness, but ultimately it's about the joy of exploration and really just like timely issues that I think all great sci-fi encapsulates. So
perfect.
Please buy it. And then
my quick comment on this is that in my experience as a producer and someone working in comics at all these different companies in different positions, my opinion is if creators enjoy working on something and making something and they have something to say, then the audience is going to love it. Okay. Perfect. So this is one of those, and it's also got the added benefit of all the creators contributing to it, and it has extremely high production values as far as the product that you're buying. So and everything.
Yeah, so many of us have become friends during this, like artists that we didn't know that are like good friends of ours now, and the connections between all of the people involved.
If you like any of these creators, they will see how well this is doing, and they will probably. I mean, I already know that a lot of them want to do their own stuff now on their own, right? They saw that you can do it. Yeah. So you need to send a clear message to people who are amazing creators working in comics that if they do something independent that's original, it's okay to do that, and that you'll be there. So that's a very important part of this.
Perfect. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute blast. Absolutely. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yep.
You've absolutely...
We hope we made your birthday better after the tragedy.
I'm sorry.
I brought it back. I just ruined it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, there's 10 years.
You forget. I mean, we made you forget about it, and I just. This is what we do, because we want to crush people's dreams like a black box.
Yeah. How did the Dolphins do against the Giants this season? And anyway, on that note, I don't know why that popped in my head.
Fair game. Fair.
Don't know how that popped in.
Fair game.
We did you a favor. We've injured Daniel Jones. So you owe me, is what that's all about. Anyway, enough football. Fair. Mark, Chris, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for spending the time. The book, I've got the PDF you sent over. It looks gorgeous. I am absolutely going to plow through that and enjoy that like nobody's business. Thank you so much for that. You've seen the trailers. You've seen how to get the books. Dead simple. If you missed it, go back. You scroll back. It's just there.
Do it. You still have time.
Guys, you've been fantastic. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Appreciate your time. Thank you for having us.
You're more than welcome. Right, that's it. We are done. That's another show done and dusted. Don't forget to check out the UCPM for all your favorite shows. You have the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't all, but the comics most certainly are. For all you Marvel fans and Disney Plus fans, it's No Prize Podcast. And making a welcome return in October is, of course, our K-pop special, K-pop Cosmos, for everyone who likes a bit of fashion with their funky dance moves. What more do you want? What more? I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.